I knew learning math rock guitar was going to be difficult, but nothing could have prepared me for how difficult it turned out to be. I spent over a decade and it was a grind. I'd wish I'd known how to do this smarter. So to help make learning math rock guitar 10 times easier for you, here are 7 important things that I learned that will help you save a ton of time. Lesson number 1. To make progress, I thought I had to grind hours into practicing every day. And in the beginning, I was highly motivated to do this, but long practice sessions quickly burned out into sporadic practice sprints. I thought I just wasn't cut out to do this until I read the book Atomic Habits by James Clear. I realized that I could build a consistent practice habit if I were to shorten my practice sessions and mark them off on a calendar, with the goal being not to break the chain, and the calendar itself as a cue to remind me to practice. The thing is, it actually worked. I stayed consistent and I saw progress over time. So lesson number 1 is consistent short practice beats sporadic marathons. The goal is to not break the chain, but don't beat yourself up if you miss a few days here and there, like I do. Lesson number 2. I was always overwhelmed trying to learn the math rock songs that I loved. I'd spend a good portion of days trying to brute force my way through entire sections of songs from the tabs that I was looking at, but all I ended up with was sloppy renditions of those songs. Other people had done this, so I knew there had to be a better way, so I asked my fellow guitar players how they learned difficult compositions, and they told me they simply broke them down into small enough pieces for them to learn. So I threw the tabs I had into software that would let me loop parts, and as a result I was not only learning to play the songs that I loved, but I was also improving my skills at the same time. So for our second lesson, break the songs you want to learn into those manageable chunks. It's a slower process, but trust me, it's worth it. Lesson number 3. When first learning math rock, I chased those flashy tapping riffs and those speedy legato fingerpicking riffs. I thought my playing was blowing minds until one day I had a guitar lesson and I was stumbling my way through the intro riff to Melody 4 by Terra Melos, and my guitar teacher stopped me and he just pointed out all of the sloppy mistakes I was making. So I went back to the basics, put the reps in, and over time the fancy stuff started to sound less messy. So lesson 3 is to make sure you build those foundations before diving into those fun tricks, or what I like to say is do the boring work first. Lesson number 4. Back when I started learning math rock around 2005, there were no go-to materials to help me learn it, but I was so desperate to learn how to play this style so I could start or join a band that I tried everything I could, but I wasn't really making any progress. That was until I discovered a small amount of transcribed materials online of the bands I was listening to, and I spent countless hours trying to learn what I could. I didn't know at the time, but by learning those riffs and the parts of those songs, I was picking up the tools of the trade, we could say, along the way. So for lesson 4, learn the riffs, the ideas, and the songs you love to progress faster. But don't forget, unlike 2005 me, you have this channel, you have my math rock guides, and the courses that I've made. Check them out in the link below. A sneaky plug there for you, thanks. Lesson number 5. There were times during this journey where I felt like I wasn't making progress, that all of the practice that I was putting in was not going anywhere, but I kept grinding at it anyway. And I'd noticed over long periods of times that things that were once difficult were actually now easier to play. And this was made even more obvious when I watched myself play guitar in my old gig videos. So lesson 5 is those tiny 1% gains that you get from sticking with it compound over time, and that you won't see the payoff for all of this hard work until months from now. Lesson number 6. I always assumed that I needed to master alternate tunings to get that twinkly math rock / emo sound. American football's beautiful FACGCE tuning from their LP1 record being the biggest culprit here. The thing is, I found retuning my guitar to be such a headache. It was like I had to learn the guitar all over again. So I decided to ditch learning alternate tunings for the time being and try to get those twinkly emotional vibes that I wanted in my music from using standard tuning. As a result, I was able to write 2 albums and 3 EPs for my band full of that emotional vibe in standard tuning. So for lesson 6, it's totally possible to write expressive math rock without using alternate tunings. That's not to say you should ditch learning them altogether, because I've since learned to play quite competently in FACGCE and DAEAC#E, which are 2 staples of math rock and emo, and I've even gone on to record some songs in these tunings. It's more that if alternate tunings are getting in the way of you making progress now, then it might be a wise decision to just stick with what you're most comfortable with. There will always be time in the future to be able to pursue these alternate tunings. Lesson number 7. I felt like the secret to improving my skills could be all unlocked if I obsessed over learning music theory. So I dived into all of the books I could get a hold of, watched all of the videos online I could, I listened to podcasts on theory, and I even read music theory publications. But as a result, my songwriting suffered. I started making micro decisions based on whether ideas fit the theory that I was learning, and this made my songs start to sound robotic and uninspiring rather than the technical yet emotive vibe I was aiming for. So for our last lesson, obsessing over theory won't make you better at playing math rock. Like most things in life, I find it's all about striking the right balance. The thing is, none of these lessons matter unless you take action. So watch this video next, where I'll walk you through an epic deep dive into learning math rock guitar step by step.